Hello, Sooner Nation. Wednesday was a big day for most OU fans. Early signing day for OU football. A pretty drama-free, easy and simple day. All 27 expected signees did put their name on the dotted line. Pretty good day for Brent Venables and company. But the world is a cruel place sometimes, Brody, and not everything could go in the direction of OU fans. And of course, I'm talking about after signing day, the number 7 OU men's basketball team. Pretty big challenge against number 11 North Carolina. Fortunately for the Sooners, they fell 81-69. A game that I think was a pretty tough one for Oklahoma. Had chances to win, but ultimately, for a variety of reasons, couldn't get it done in what was a pretty hostile environment. But still, probably the worst performance of the season for OU. Brody, game just ended a few minutes ago. We knew this was possible. North
Yep.
Carolina's a good team, despite their losses coming into the OU game. Tough North Carolina team, but Brody, just from a broad perspective, watching this game, what was your takeaway from Oklahoma's first loss of the season?
Yeah, I think there was a few positives, but you got to start with the turnovers. Like it was brutal, and it was brutal very early on. They got into a hole because of how many turnovers they had in the first couple minutes of the game, and they ended with 18 turnovers, and North Carolina had 9. So they were just given. When you're playing a really good team like North Carolina, you can't give them the ball as many times as OU did. So that was really frustrating. And then I think the free throw shooting, Oklahoma can improve on that. They definitely, I'd expect them to, but that wasn't good either. There was just a lot of ugly, and their offense did not. I mean, it was bad. It just nothing really started going offensively until 4 minutes left in the game. So it was just kind of a frustrating, ugly game, I'd say.
You hit it there, Brody. And here's the weird thing: OU shot 50% in the second half. And really, that's because what you alluded to, that late rally. But even shooting 50% from the floor in the second half, they still shot 40% from the floor overall, their worst shooting game of the season. They finished with 69 points, their lowest output of the season. Only 28 in the first half. I think they only shot 32% in the first half. Both of those totals, they're worse than a half this season. And you mentioned the turnovers, Brody. 18 on the game. Those led to 24 points for North Carolina. And by contrast, OU only scored 11 points off 9 North Carolina turnovers. That's the game. North
Yeah.
Carolina won the game by 12 points. They had half of the turnovers OU had and scored double the points off turnovers compared to OU. And you're right, Brody. Look, North Carolina came into the game as one of the most one of the teams, or a team that takes more trips to the free throw line than anybody else. They take 27 a game. OU 24 free throws, North Carolina 26. I think going into the game, you take that if you're an OU fan. But OU only shot 16 of 24. It's just, look, it's okay that they weren't perfect, right? But there's just things like that you can't expect to have those kind of stats. You can't expect to shoot that poorly in the first half and win the game. You just can't.
Yeah, they're going to play a lot of really good teams. That's a given in the Big 12. I think honestly that might have been good that bad of a performance, turnover wise, and all those aspects we just touched on. It's probably for the best that happened against North Carolina. Obviously, you don't want it to happen at all, but I mean, you just in Big 12 play, just like in this game, you're not going to win playing that way. And RJ Davis, he
Yeah.
was he was he was a killer out there for North Carolina. 23 points. He played, amazing. Then Oklahoma really started to cut that deficit back at the end. You're kind of thinking, well, they actually got it under 10, kind of making a run. And then, they really needed to stop. I think they were down 6, and Harrison Ingram banks
Yeah.
it like crazy shot. And it just kind of showed, pretty much everything was going right for North Carolina. And there really wasn't anything go right for Oklahoma until 4 minutes left in the game, where at that point it was ultimately too late.
You mentioned that, man. Despite everything we just said, that for OU from an offensive side of things, a JV McCollum layup cut the lead to 6 with a minute 45 left, and you're telling yourself, if you're OU, okay, get a stop right here, come down and get a bucket. Who knows what happens in the last minute of the game? But that Harrison Ingram, I mean, at the end of the shot clock, off the glass, you can't. I mean, you got to shrug your shoulders if you're OU there. But here's the thing: North Carolina did a lot of things really well. You have to give them credit. I mean, you just do, and you're right. RJ Davis didn't shoot particularly efficiently from the floor, but 5 of 9 from three, 5 assists. Was just he was the best player on the floor tonight. And I think if you look from an OU perspective, we talked about it in the video before the game. This needed to be a JV McCollum game, and JV had moments, had some decent moments, but 14 points, 6 of 17 shooting, fouled out of the game, was a -10 for the game. Only Milo Suzanne was the only OU player with a positive plus minus. Typically, the team with the best player wins the game. That was North Carolina tonight, and unfortunately, JV McCollum, North Carolina made it tough for him tonight.
Yeah, McCollum's performance, doing my player grades over for the OUinsider.com, it's just kind of like, yeah, he scored 14 points. He was 2 of 5 from three. He had 3 assists. He had 2 turnovers, but none of that scoring really came on until late. At that point, it's like Oklahoma had a lot of chances to cut into that deficit and really make, this a game. But it just felt like when they needed those buckets, particularly earlier in the second half or in the first half, McCollum wasn't hitting. He was 2 for 10 at one point from the field. And you're just not going to keep up with a team like North Carolina when your best scorer isn't really going out there and, scoring. I thought Otega Owe actually played really well. He was, 10 for 11 from the free throw line. If you would have told me he would have been 10 for 11 and Los Uzan would have been 1 for 4, I would have probably thought you were crazy because, it's crazy. But yeah, I thought Owe played really well. But yeah, there was just kind of a lot. I mean, foul trouble, put yourself in a bad spot. John Hughley and Sam Godwin were both in foul trouble. They brought Northweather in at one point. But yeah, it was an ugly game, both offensively and, defensively. There was some moments. I think, there was a point in the first half where Oklahoma's defense really started to settle in. And you're like, okay, they're getting back into this game. They might make a run. But there was still a lot of moments when they really needed to stop. Either they couldn't get it or North Carolina, they would just make a tough shot. And sometimes you play good defense, but the other team just plays better on offense.
Let's talk about maybe some takeaways for this game from Oklahoma moving forward. Obviously, as tough of a loss as this is for Oklahoma, it's still early in the season. It's a non-conference game. Still a couple games away from conference play. To me, Brody, you mentioned one of them there. Otega Owe continues. I mean, he continues to show how improved he is offensively. I mean, 23 points, tied RJ Davis for the game high in points. He was 6 of 10 from the field, 1 of 2 from three, 10 of 11 from the free throw line. I thought was really good defensively for most of the game. But again, to show out and against a good opponent, the best one of the season so far, I think that's positive. Another one, OU actually won the battle of the boards pretty handedly, 41-34. They also won the offensive rebounding battle, 11-7. Somehow North Carolina won the second chance battle, 9-2. To me, that's an anomaly more than it is anything else. I think those are a couple of positives. And to me, Brody, despite a lot of things not going OU's way, the shooting, the turnovers, also fast break points, which has been a big thing for OU this year. They had 0 in the first half, 9 in the second half, but that's way below their season total. North Carolina had 23 fast break points. Despite all those things not going OU's way, they still had chances where a timely basket here, a couple free throws here, a stop here, maybe things turn out differently. But for you, what do you take away if you're Porter Moser's squad as you try to learn from this moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Otega Oweh, new career high in points against North Carolina. So I definitely think that's a positive, and I think that kind of shows, as you mentioned, his improvement. But one of my biggest takeaways was I really thought it was great to see them really battle down the stretch. There's a lot of teams that when you get down 15 with, I think it was 5-6 minutes left, that's kind of game. But Oklahoma really fought, and I think there's going to be a lot of games in Big 12 play where that's going to help them. You're going to need to fight down the stretch, and maybe another game something will go your way. But I think a lot of the issues that were in this game were self-inflicted issues, like the turnovers. If they got to cut down on that, and I bet Moser is going to have a fun time next practice with the making them shoot free throws because you can't miss free throws down the stretch. And, maybe he'll make them run for every turnover they had. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it was weird. I think I probably said to myself, how is Oklahoma still in this game? Probably at every single timeout of this game. It was just like crazy. You look up at halftime and they're only down, I think, 9 somehow. So you really fix some stuff. And I think, Oklahoma, I think they're still in a really good spot, and I wouldn't worry about Oklahoma after that loss.
Fortunately for the Sooners, Brody, I think you're right, but fortunately for them, they get 8 days off before their next game against Central Arkansas at home. Then they get Monmouth. Am I saying that right? Monmouth? Is it Monmouth? Oh
It could
God.
be either of them. Honestly,
I'm showing my
good
age.
question.
Oh man, it's one of them.
Yeah,
Monmouth. I'll let the people in the comments tell me how to pronounce that. But Central Arkansas on the 28th, then Monmouth. I'm gonna go with that on
yeah,
New Year's Day, before OU starts conference play, but against Iowa State. But look, they get more than a week off to digest this loss. You're not gonna be able to play perfect every game. OU did not play perfect. I think there are certainly things to fix, as you alluded to, but also some positives to take away. They can play better. I think there's reason to believe they will play better. But it'll be pretty interesting to see not only what Porter Moser says the next time he speaks with the media, but if OU maybe has a chip on its shoulder against Central Arkansas after a few days off, and now after ending its 10-game winning streak, being one of the only undefeated teams left in college football or in college basketball. Brody, that's going to do it for us here over at the OU Insider Basketball Show in the Paint. I think there's so much going on at OU Insider right now, Brody. It was signing day today, tons of content over at OUinsider.com. As you alluded to, you've got player grades from this game coming up on the website, got takeaways and notes from me. And while this is a tough loss today, basketball season is still going. There's plenty of games left to go. Now it's going to be interesting to see how Porter Moser and these Sooners respond. Plenty of things to go look at. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button for this YouTube channel, or go over to OUinsider.com, become a VIP member, get all kinds of content from all the staff, all the members there at OU Insider. Brody, until then, it is 11:15 on a Wednesday night. It's been a long day. Tough loss for Oklahoma. We'll see how they bounce back. Until then, Brody and I will see you guys next week on In the Paint.